Today, I want to give you some time management tips that can help you as a college student figure out what kind of time you have and some of the best ways to use it effectively. I have more videos that are specific to some of these tips, so this goes through a few of the ones that I have expounded upon in some different places, so you can also look those up at a later time. So, when you're thinking about time management, I'd say you have to think about four things. First of all, how much time do you have and how much time do you need? You can't actually make up time that doesn't exist. So part of this is being really honest with yourself about what you have. Next, what are the things that need to be done? And when you're thinking about the things that need to be done, how long are they going to actually take? Not how long do you think they'll take or how long can you speed through it, but how long will it take? Then, when, where, and how are you going to complete these things? Because if you could do something, but not in the right spot, that's not going to be helpful to you. And finally, how do you stay on task? Because when you only have limited time, you have to use it as efficiently as possible. So here are some tips that go with each of these. Starting with how much time should you be spending on your schoolwork. Now, this is going to vary from class to class and from assignment to assignment, but thinking about this in general, most students should be spending about 2 times the amount of time they're spending in class outside of class. And if you're taking online classes, then you want to multiply the number of credits you are taking by 3. So when I teach a class that is 3 credits, if you're in my class for about 3 hours a week, I expect that you're doing 6 more hours on the back end with things like reading, studying, extra work, stuff like that. So first of all, think about those hours. And then second of all, think about what you actually are doing with that time. So I like to suggest people make a time budget. Take the amount of time that exists, either a complete calendar, or you can add up the number of hours in a week, which is 168. From there, you want to subtract the times that you can't do anything about. You should give yourself time to sleep. Sleep is important. If you absolutely have an amount of time that you spend getting ready, traveling, eating or making food, time you spend in class, time you spend at work, if you can't use it doing schoolwork, delete that from the time and then see how much time you actually have left. If it is less than the amount you need, you might need to reconsider your schedule. But if it's the right amount, then it's just identifying where that time is in your calendar and using it effectively. Next, you got to figure out what the actual physical items that you have to do are going to be. So for school, you typically have a lot going on. I call anything that is more than one action or activity a project. And for class, that's almost every assignment. An assignment is typically a project. You have to write an essay. It has steps. You have to read something, think about how you're going to plan it out, write it, and then revise it. So those would be the steps to an action plan that would make that work. And then you have to figure out which of these actions need to be completed when. If the essay needs to be written in a week, you might be able to do an action each day. If it is a longer item and it needs to be written in 3 weeks, then you can spread them out a little bit more depending on how you're going to do it. But for each thing, you should really write down what items you have, what steps you have to cover, and how long you think those things will take. So more specifically, you want to break things into actions that you can actually complete. An action is something specific. Reading, interestingly enough, is not a very good action because when you just hold something in front of you and read, you're not typically doing the work it takes to understand it. So for reading, you might have an action like read 2 pages. Then another action would be write notes, take a summary, jot down definitions. Then you actually are doing some work with the reading. Depending on what type of reading it is, you might have to do more or less pages before you have to stop and write some notes. Or maybe you read a chapter, but then you go back and make flashcards. So knowing that is somewhat important. If you're writing a paper, as I mentioned before, even something like a simple essay, you still have the action of reading the material that you need. Maybe it's looking up information, finding an article, reading a section of a book. Then you need to write down some notes or an outline, make sure you have the pieces you need. You need to sit down and draft whatever you're going to write the paper or a section of a paper. If it's a larger piece, you might want to draft just a segment of whatever it is, and you don't have to start at the beginning. Then you might want to set up an action, which is have someone review it. An action could be make a tutoring appointment. Those are great actions. For studying, you should also have a sense of what you're doing with the time. Are you going through definitions to see if you remember them? Maybe you're rewriting notes, making a mind map, practicing flashcards, or doing a practice quiz. If you just say study, when you get there and you don't know exactly what action you're taking, you won't have a good sense of what to do with the time. So for each item in the action plan, you should know how long it's going to take, what you need to accomplish it, and where you can complete this. I like the writing an essay as an example because it's something that most college students have to do. So how long should the reading part take? It will depend on the reading, but possibly a couple of hours. What do I need to accomplish it? I need something to read. Maybe I've been given something if it's an English class, but I might have to look something up if it's for a different class, like a science class. I need someplace where I can read quietly, or if I need to look something up, like an article, I need a place where I can access a library database. For the part where I am outlining or writing down my general thoughts, that might only take me an hour, but I need to have the material nearby so I can reference it. And I need to be in a place where I can think and write. And that's going to be important too. When you're thinking about what your actions are going to be, you also want to say, when should they be completed by? Again, an essay that's due in 1 week, the items might need to be done today, tomorrow, the next day, and so forth. For something that is in the future, it is actually important to say, well, I need to have the reading done by the first week of October. I need to have an outline done by the third week of October because I need to have a draft done by the end of October so it can be reviewed and turned in before Thanksgiving. So putting actual dates on it is key. Now that you have a sense of what's coming, whether they're big things or small things, so you go through all of your classes and you pick out the major assignments, even the small assignments, you make a list of these. Now you figure out the ones that are dated soon, preferably within a week, because I suggest weekly planning at least to a point every week. Look ahead and say, well, what absolutely has to be done within the next 7 days? Weight the items that are absolutely most important, key to your grade. They're difficult, things you know you avoid, and prioritize them. So now you know which things you have to do, how long they should take, and what's the most important. Next, remind yourself of how you can complete work in the most reasonable way. Some people only can do certain kinds of reading in a quiet place. So you need to know for each of your actions, does it need to be in a quiet location? Would it be better if it was in the learning commons where there are more people? Would it be necessary to do this with a computer? If you're studying, do you want to do it with other people so you can work together? Do you need to have a device in front of you to look something up or to type? Or is it the kind of work you could take someplace? Knowing that's going to be pretty important. Finally, once all of these pieces exist and you've gone through and said, well, these are all the things I need to do, stick them somewhere on a calendar. Literally be able to say, well, where could I get that done? So if I have math class on Tuesday, I might want to do my homework for biology just after my math class. If I'm trying to turn in an essay for English on Thursday, this might be where I have my English reading on Monday, a block of time for outlining or drafting an essay on Tuesday, and some time for revision on Wednesday. So being able to look at it on a calendar with all those pieces is key. And of course, put in the prioritized actions first, and then fill in the other ones. If you can take these steps on a somewhat weekly basis, it moves a little faster each time, but it is worth trying to understand what you have to do rather than waiting until you remember things and then having to rush through them. And then finally, of course, the key piece of staying on task. There's a couple of different good methods for staying on task. One of them is the Pomodoro Method, in which you work for a period of time have a timer and then take a short break so your brain isn't just completely focused. After 25 or 50 minutes, most people need a little bit of a break to allow their brain to move around a little and then be able to get back into the efficiency. Some people like to switch tasks when they do Pomodoro, or some people like to do the same task, but take that break in the middle. And I usually say, get up and move when you take the break. Another way to stay on task is body doubling. Work along with someone else. Even if they're doing different work than you, sometimes it is helpful to have someone nearby. It's like, well, I'm going to work on this and you're going to work on that. Great. Let's both keep each other accountable to be working for the next 20 minutes or something along those lines. Avoiding distractions means that if you know something is going to throw you off, put it away for a period of time. If you can't look at your phone for 20 minutes, it's got to go in a bag somewhere. If it's going to ding and you're going to notice it, it has to go someplace. If you are in the middle of thinking about an assignment and you think about another thing, take a piece of paper and write down that thing and then move it someplace. Like, I don't want to forget it, but I can't think about it now. I like the not now list. It's a great way to notice the things you typically would get off track on and then don't do them. I often not now my email. I have to work on my computer, but the email's right there. So I have to remember to say, oh, not now. I can look at email later. If you have a lot of anxiety when you're working on an assignment, then you can do some things to help yourself out with that. I have other videos and information about actual relaxation and meditation, but also part of the idea here is to get something done, not to create something perfect. If you are planning ahead, then you know that anything you do can be fixed, can be revised, can be improved. And if you make a plan to have somebody look over a draft knowing it's not going to be great, that sometimes helps. And then finally, if you are doing work, give yourself a reward for it. Do something fun in your break. Listen to a song, have a snack, play a game, but as long as you have it on a timer and you know you're not going to be done with it. Sometimes I sit with a small container of some kind of candy, and if I work for a while, I can have one. Something like that. Something that's going to keep you going, but not overdo all of that. All of these things can really help you be efficient with your time. So, in a summary, you got to think about how much time you need, how much time you have, and make sure that these things match up. You can't make up time you don't have. You might have to actually change your schedule. Determine the actions you need to complete and think about how long they actually will take and prioritize them to make sure you do the important ones first and that you don't get hung up on something that isn't as important. You could research a topic all day, but if you never write the paper, you will not get a grade for it. Choose the best locations for the best way of working and to make sure you have the items you need. Plot out on a calendar tasks that can be completed in available times. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but if it gives you a sense of, I finish this, next I go to that. If I finish this, I go to that. Or if I finish this class or something that's on the calendar, then I know I can move to an assignment rather than going, oh, what am I doing now? Saving time by having a plan. That will help you stay focused, avoid distractions, and get help if needed. So thanks. I think I covered a lot of detail. And like I said, I have a lot more videos on more specific things if you're looking for help making a time budget, thinking more about actions, or doing weekly planning. Good luck out there.